In true crime, some disappearances happen without warning. This one happened in front of cameras and still cannot be explained. This is the disappearance of Trevor Deely. He made a note of everything he needed to do at work the next morning. He made tea, he checked his emails, he noted his tasks. These are the kinds of things a person does when they expect to still be around in a few hours. And then Trevor Deely stepped out into a storm, and no one who knew him ever saw him again. That is not unusual for a missing persons case. What is unusual is what the cameras saw, and more importantly, what they didn't. Trevor was 22. He worked in the IT department of Bank of Ireland Asset Management in Dublin city centre. By every account, from colleagues and family, he was dependable, sociable, straightforward. The kind of person described as a good guy. Not because there's nothing else to say, but because there genuinely wasn't much friction in his life. He had recently returned from a trip to Alaska. He had a shift the next morning. He had plans, and within hours he would be gone. On the evening of Thursday, the 7th of December 2000, he attended his workplace Christmas party, drinks at two venues, then on to Buck Whaley's nightclub on Lower Leeson Street. The weather that night was severe. Gusts of 60 to 70 miles per hour, a heavy rainstorm moving across the city. Visibility was low, streets were largely empty. There was also a taxi strike in progress. Getting home the normal way wasn't going to happen, so Trevor did something practical. He decided to walk to his office first, a few minutes away, to pick up an umbrella before continuing on to his apartment in Ballsbridge. It was a small, sensible decision. He arrived at the rear entrance of his office building at approximately 3:35 in the morning. This is where the CCTV footage begins, and it introduces the only unknown figure that has never been identified. And the footage shows Trevor, but it also shows someone else. A man dressed entirely in black is already standing at the rear gate of the building when Trevor arrives. He has been standing there, according to investigators, for some time before Trevor arrives. Waiting for some time, in a storm, at a gate, in the middle of the night. The two men speak briefly. The exchange appears calm. Nothing in the footage suggests a confrontation. Trevor then goes inside. He speaks to a night shift colleague named Carl Pender, makes tea, checks his emails, writes down his tasks for the morning. Pender later tells investigators Trevor was in good spirits, slightly tired from the evening, but coherent. At 4:03 in the morning, Trevor leaves the building. He's carrying a large blue umbrella, the kind branded with ACC bank lettering. He turns in the direction of his flat. The route would have taken him along the canal, a path he was familiar with. The man in black is no longer at the gate. At 4:14 a.m., a second CCTV camera, this one mounted near the Bank of Ireland ATM on Haddington Road, captures Trevor walking past. He's moving in the direction of Ballsbridge. He looks steady. He's heading home. This is the last confirmed image of Trevor Deely that exists anywhere. 31 seconds after he passes the camera, a figure walks through the same frame, same direction. For years, investigators believed this was the same man in black from the office gate, that he had followed Trevor from the building, tracked his route, and appeared again in this final piece of footage. In 2017, when digitally enhanced versions of the footage were released, Gardaí publicly stated they believed both figures were the same person. A reward of 100,000 euros was announced. And then, in 2023, that assumption collapsed. The man on Haddington Road was identified. He was interviewed. And Gardaí confirmed that his movements were not suspicious. He had no connection to Trevor. He happened to be walking in the same direction at the same time. Trevor's brother Mark described it as a bittersweet moment. "It puts us nearly straight back to square one," he said. Which raises an obvious issue. If the man on Haddington Road was never the man from the office gate, then the man from the office gate is still out there, still unidentified, still one of the key unidentified figures in Trevor's final movements. Two additional colleagues appeared at that gate that same night, shortly after Trevor entered the building. They have both been investigated and cleared, but their presence, three separate people at a rear gate at 3:35 in the morning during a storm, has never been fully explained in public reporting. It is a detail that tends to get overlooked. The search for Trevor began days after he disappeared. His flatmates were away for the weekend. His colleagues assumed he hadn't come in on Friday because of the party. It wasn't until Monday, when he failed to show up again, that someone noticed. A colleague realized no one had actually seen him. Human resources were notified. His family was contacted. By then, nearly 3 days had passed. The Garda Sub-Aqua unit searched the Grand Canal and the River Dodder. Nothing. The Grand Canal basin could not be fully drained. Doing so would have compromised the structural integrity of surrounding buildings. The search ended without result. Trevor's sister Michelle said that when she rang his phone in the days after he vanished, it rang out. An expert later confirmed that a phone submerged in water would not have rung, which suggests the phone may have still been functional. Somewhere above the waterline. Where exactly is not known. Two Gardaí traveled to Alaska to speak to the woman Trevor had visited just weeks before his disappearance. His sisters made the same trip separately. Nothing came of it. It led nowhere. And it did not explain what happened that night. Whatever the Alaska trip was, a reunion, a failed connection, something unresolved, it produced no investigative lead. This is where the case becomes difficult to explain. By almost every conventional measure, the immediate aftermath of Trevor's disappearance should have left something behind. Dublin City in December 2000 was not empty. The canal area was, according to Gardaí, a place people socialized. In the weeks that followed, the U.S. Secret Service swept the surrounding streets as part of security preparations for President Clinton's visit on the 12th of December. If there had been a body, or signs of violence, or any physical trace, it is hard to understand how all of that activity left nothing. Gardaí themselves have stated publicly that they believe witnesses who were in the canal area that night chose not to come forward. Not that there were no witnesses, that there may have been witnesses who did not come forward. In 2016, the case was formally reopened. A cold case review team based at Pierce Street Garda Station took over. The following April, enhanced footage was released. The reward was announced. Public interest surged. In 2017, investigators received a tip from an informant. The claim was significant. A known criminal figure connected to a Crumlin-based gang. The same gang, investigators noted, that had been linked to the murder of a woman named Sinead Kelly in June of 1998, had allegedly confessed to being involved in Trevor's death, but no evidence ever confirmed this. According to the informant, the encounter had been a chance one. Trevor had not been targeted, but something had happened and Trevor's body had been disposed of. Gardaí excavated a 3-acre wooded site in Chapelizod, approximately 8 kilometers from where Trevor was last seen. The search continued for weeks. A gun was found. Drugs were found. Both were determined to be unrelated to the case, described as a stash area used by criminals. The search ended in September 2017. No remains, no clothing, no umbrella, nothing. At this point, one question remains that the evidence cannot cleanly answer. What did the man in black want? He was not following Trevor on Haddington Road. That was someone else entirely. He was at the gate before Trevor arrived. He waited in a storm for some time. He spoke to Trevor calmly, and then he was gone. The interaction, as captured on camera, does not look like a confrontation, but investigators have not been able to identify him in 25 years of looking. Every lead has been followed. As of December 2024, the Cold Case Review had processed nearly 900 separate leads. None produced an answer. In June 2025, Angarda Siochana confirmed that the case would not be reclassified as a murder investigation. It remains a missing person inquiry. That classification matters. It affects resourcing, it affects what tools investigators can deploy, it affects public framing. The decision means that, officially, Trevor Deely is still missing. Not confirmed dead, not a homicide victim, missing. His father, Michael Deely, who spent 24 years campaigning for answers, attending events, speaking to media, pushing institutions, refusing to let the case settle into silence, died in August 2024. He never learned what happened. The visual description of Trevor on that final piece of footage is specific and worth holding in mind. He is wearing a mustard and brown checked shirt, beige corduroy trousers, dark deck shoes with white stripes, a green padded jacket, and he's carrying that large blue umbrella, the one he walked to his office in a storm specifically to collect. He had places to be, a shift in a few hours, notes on his desk, and then the camera moves on and he is not in the next one. 25 years later, on the anniversary of his disappearance, Gardaí issued another appeal. Same request as before. If you were near the canal that night, if you know anything about the man at the gate, if something you saw back then still sits uneasily with you, 3 things remain unresolved in this case, and they have remained unresolved since the beginning. Who was the man in black at the gate, and what was said between them? What happened in the roughly 30 minutes between Trevor's last sighting and the time he should have arrived home? A distance of less than a kilometer, a walk of just minutes, and where, after 25 years of searching waterways, woodland, and hundreds of leads, is Trevor Deely? The CCTV record ends at 4:14 a.m. on Haddington Road. The investigation has not ended, but it has also not moved forward in any way the public has been told about. Somewhere between those 2 facts is whatever actually happened that night. Something happened, and it has not been found.